I came home after my husband Lucas's funeral, feeling drained and heartbroken, but when I walked into my living room, there was my mother-in-law, Hannah, sitting on my couch with a smug smile. "We've decided you'll move out. We'll take care of his estate from here," she said, tossing me a small bag. "Take what you can carry." I laughed and pulled out Lucas's will. "Then you'll be happy to hear what he left you." Her smile vanished. Lucas had died after a tough battle with cancer. I spent months caring for him, exhausted and grieving, while Hannah barely showed up to help. She always saw me as someone who stole her son away, even though Lucas and I were married for 5 years and together for 10. At the funeral, Hannah acted like she was the grieving widow, crying and throwing herself over the casket, pretending she was the one who suffered most. Not once did she even look at me, his actual wife. So, when I found Hannah and her daughter Denise sitting in my house like they owned it, I was shocked. Hannah smiled like she'd already won. "You'll move out. Lucas wouldn't want you here without him." Denise tossed a tiny duffel bag at my feet, smirking. "Take what you can carry." I stared at them, wondering if I was imagining their cruelty, but I stayed calm. I reached into my purse and pulled out Lucas's will. He had finalized it when he got sick, and he never shared it with his mother. I dropped it on the table. "Then you'll be happy to hear what he left you." Their smug faces changed instantly. "Lucas left everything to me, the house, the cars, the savings, even his business shares. You know what he left you, Hannah?" I pointed at the paper, a letter and his old watch. Hannah grabbed the will, her eyes desperate. "That's not possible." "Oh, but it is," I said, "and it's legally binding." Denise looked furious. "You made him do this," she snapped. I laughed. "No, Lucas did this because he knew you'd try something like this." Hannah stood up, trying to act tough. "You can't prove that." "I don't have to," I said, holding up my phone, "but if you want, I can call my lawyer right now." That's when they really started panicking. Hannah switched to fake sweetness. "But sweetie, we're family." "No, Hannah, Lucas was my family. You lost that right a long time ago." She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. "You have 10 minutes to leave my house before I call the police." Hannah looked like she swallowed something sour. Denise just stared at me, speechless, and then, they both hurried out of the house. And that was just the beginning. For about a week, everything was quiet, too quiet. Hannah and Denise had left like rats running away, but I knew they wouldn't stay gone. Sure enough, I got a letter in the mail, a lawsuit. Hannah was trying to fight the will. She claimed Lucas wasn't in his right mind when he wrote it and that I had forced him to make me the sole beneficiary. She wanted everything split fairly between her, Denise, and me. I was furious. Lucas was mentally sharp until the very end. He had carefully written that will to protect me, knowing his mother would try something like this. I called my lawyer right away. "Let them try," he said calmly. "They don't have a case. We have medical records proving Lucas was mentally sound. We have witness statements. We even have video recordings of him explaining why he made those decisions." Lucas, always one step ahead, had recorded himself talking about his will, just in case his mother tried to mess with it. So, I filed my response and prepared for a legal fight. The break-in. But Hannah didn't stop there. Things got even worse. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to strange noises downstairs. My heart raced. The house was supposed to be empty. I was living alone now. I grabbed my phone and crept out of bed. When I looked down the stairs, the front door was wide open, and the curtains were moving in the night breeze. Then I saw a shadow moving in the kitchen. Fear hit me so hard I felt sick. My first instinct was to call the police, but I also grabbed the baseball bat Lucas used to keep by the door. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't about to sit back and do nothing. I walked toward the kitchen as quietly as possible. I heard a thud, then a crash. I flipped on the lights, and who was standing there? Denise, digging through my cabinets. We stared at each other, both shocked. Then she actually had the nerve to sneer at me. "You changed the locks." "No kidding, I changed the locks. What the hell are you doing in my house?" I snapped, gripping the bat tightly. Denise folded her arms like she was the victim. "I was looking for something of my brother's." "Something you stole?" "You mean the things he left me?" I said. She huffed. "You don't deserve any of it." Anger boiled up inside me. "And you thought breaking in was the answer?" Denise rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "This is my family's house." "No, Denise," I said, pulling out my phone. "It's my house, and now you're going to jail." She laughed. "You wouldn't dare." I dialed 911, and her smile vanished. Suddenly, she was panicking. "Wait, don't call the cops, please. I just wanted something of his." "Then you should have asked," I snapped. Denise lunged at me, whether to grab my phone or the bat. I couldn't tell, but my instincts kicked in, and I swung the bat. It hit her shoulder hard, making her stumble back. She screamed, clutching her shoulder. "You crazy expletive," she yelled. the dispatcher answered. I have a trespasser in my home, I said, breathing heavily. I need the police. No, Denise cried. She bolted for the door, holding her shoulder as she ran, but she didn't realize I had security cameras. The cops arrived within minutes. I showed them the footage, and Denise was arrested for breaking and entering. Hannah bailed her out the next morning, but instead of giving up, they only tried harder. A few days later, my lawyer called me. He sounded amused. You're not going to believe this, he said. At this point, try me. They submitted a new witness statement from Lucas. I almost dropped my coffee. What? They're claiming Lucas recorded a video saying he was forced to sign the will under pressure, and they just found it on his old laptop. I had to laugh. They were getting desperate. Tell me all about it, I said, ready to tear them apart. Oh, absolutely, my lawyer replied. His tech expert proved the so-called video was fake. It was just old recordings of Lucas, pieced together to look like something new. The judge was not impressed. The lawsuit was thrown out, and Denise was now facing felony charges for breaking into my house. Hannah kept playing the victim, and me? I was just getting started. A week later, I started getting official notices about Lucas's estate, IRS-level audits. Lucas and I had always been careful with our paperwork, so, when I got a notice about a fraud investigation on his assets, I knew something was off. My lawyer confirmed it. Someone had sent an anonymous tip, and who else could it be but Hannah and Denise? I wasn't about to let them keep messing with my life, so, I did something they never expected. I hired a private investigator, and what he found was shocking. While Hannah and Denise were trying to steal from me, they forgot one little detail: they were drowning in debt. Hannah had taken out loans using Lucas's name before he died. Denise had faked his signature on credit applications, and even worse, they had been stealing money from Lucas's business. When my private investigator handed me the report, I couldn't believe it. They were terrible at hiding their crimes: fake invoices, shady bank transfers, and clear evidence leading straight to their accounts. I sent everything to my lawyer. His reaction? Oh, this is going to be fun. Within a week, their bank accounts were frozen, and my lawyer filed fraud charges against them on behalf of Lucas's business. Denise lost her job when her crimes were exposed. Hannah? She lost her mind. At 7 a.m., Hannah came banging on my door, screaming like a maniac. You did this, she yelled. I watched her through the peephole while sipping my coffee. You ruined us, she kept yelling, pounding on the door. I let her scream until she was out of breath. Then, in the pettiest move of my life, I opened the door just enough to slip out a copy of the fraud report, with her name all over it. Hannah snatched it up, read the first page, and went silent. Then she started crying. Oh, now you want sympathy? I said, tilting my head. You tried to take everything from me. I just returned the favor. She turned bright red and tried to push her way into my house, but guess what? I had already called the cops. The moment she tried to step forward, the police sirens were already blaring down the street. The look on her face was priceless. She was arrested on the spot for harassment and trespassing. And Denise? Well, she had bigger problems. While Hannah was losing her mind, Denise was stuck in jail, facing felony charges for breaking into my house, and she panicked. She made a deal with the cops. She snitched on her own mother to avoid jail time. Denise confessed that Hannah had forged Lucas's name, stolen money, and even hired someone to fake the will dispute. Hannah was now facing serious fraud charges. Denise got a plea deal but lost everything. Hannah? She was going to prison. And me? I was finally free. Or so I thought, because just when I believed it was over, I found out something that made my stomach drop. Lucas had left me one last letter, holding a secret he had never told anyone. One night, I was looking through Lucas's old things. Maybe I was trying to feel close to him. Maybe I just needed something to hold on to. I opened a book he used to keep by his bed, and a folded letter fell out. The envelope said, "For my love, if she ever needs the truth." I sat down, my heart racing. Part of me didn't want to open it, but I did, and what I read changed everything. Lucas wrote that his father didn't die from a heart attack like Hannah had always claimed. He found out later that Hannah had purposely kept his father's medication away from him. She let him die. He had proof, medical records, missing prescriptions, and a letter from his father's doctor, who had always suspected something was wrong but never had enough evidence. And the worst part? Lucas believed she did it for money. She cashed out his father's life insurance just days after the funeral. My whole body went cold. This wasn't just about stealing money. Hannah was a murderer. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I had made up my mind. I called Hannah's lawyer and offered to meet. I said I was willing to discuss a deal, and he agreed right away. That afternoon, I walked into a fancy office where Hannah was waiting. She looked so smug, like she'd already won. "I knew you'd come around," she said. "You were never cut out for a fight." I placed Lucas's letter on the table. Her smile faded. "What's this?" she asked. "The truth," I said. She read the letter, her face turning pale, then she forced a smile. "This is just a lie from a dying man," she snapped. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Lucas's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, it means she went too far. My mother killed my father, and I have the proof. If she tries to hurt my wife or take what's mine, you'll know I was right." Hannah's eyes went wide, then she snapped and tried to grab my phone, but before she could reach me, the door flew open. 2 police officers came in and pulled her away. "No, you can't do this," Hannah screamed, fighting them, but as they dragged her past me, she lost control and shouted, "I did it, and I'd do it again. That man deserved to die." The whole room went quiet. She realized what she had just said, but it was too late. The officers hauled her away, her screams fading down the hall. It was over. Hannah was charged with murder. The financial records proved she had benefited from her husband's death. The medical records only made things worse for her. She tried to take back her confession, but it was already on record. She went to trial and lost. They gave her a life sentence. Denise? She ran and disappeared. I didn't care where she went. And me? I spent weeks alone in an empty house, feeling both everything and nothing at the same time. I had won, but I had lost so much. One day, I opened the last box of Lucas's things. Inside, I found another note from him. It was short. "I hope you never need to use this, but if you do, I know you'll be strong enough to do what's right. I love you forever." I held the letter to my chest and cried. I cried for Lucas, for everything we'd lost, and for the justice that finally came. I didn't know what my future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again.